Hey scrapbook friends, it's Nicole and I'm here with volume 3 of what must feel like the never-ending Italy scrapbook. I did want to point out that I took the advice that was given to me to add some cardstock to the spine cover, and it seems like it's working to keep this spine from popping out. Of course, now I'm trying to pop it out and it doesn't want to come out. But you can see I just taped some black cardstock on here, and so that just gives it a little bit more to grab in here, because stretching it so thick, I think that's what causes it to pop out. So we'll see if at the end it stays all set up. Okay, so here we go, volume 3. Hopefully you've already seen volumes 1 and 2, and there will be a volume 4 in a day or two. So if you remember volume 2, this is very much the same title page that I did. I just changed the towns that we went to, and volume 3, days 6 through 9. So you can see I'm making a little progress. Days, days 1 and 2 were the whole first volume in Rome. But here we go with volume 3, Florence, Volterra, San Gimignano, and Pisa. So we started in Florence, or as the Italians call it, Firenze. My daughter, of course, has lived in Italy, and so a lot of these I used the Italian names as opposed to the English versions of the name. Some pictures of our hotel. Hotels in Italy are kind of different than what we're used to here in the States, a little more rustic, and some of that, of course, was the budget that I put us on. So next time I'm doing a little bit more research on hotels before I set my budget. I just did like a cream color background for this and a piece of decorative paper with a little rounded corner. I have some Fiskars corner rounding scissors I've had for years and years that make this particular corner round, and I really like it. All right, welcome to Florence. There's a McDonald's. I can't tell you how much I was tempted to go eat at that McDonald's in Florence, but we didn't. We went into town, rode the bus, and went to this really cool kind of indoor market and got some breakfast before we started our explorations in Florence. This time I did not put little arrows of the things that we did. I just put the map. I'm not sure why I decided to do that. I did put our little Firenze card. This is one of those passes that pays for your public transportation and admission to select attractions in Florence. And then this one picture up here, I said it was dinner at Terra, one of the best meals we had on our whole trip. So some pictures of us eating some yummy food. And then this was just funny in a little shop. It's a scale that has a picture of an elephant, so that if you step on the scale and don't like the weight you see, you can just blame the elephant. Sounds great to me. All right, our first step was the Accademia, which is where the David is. There was a huge long line up here, so we were so glad that we had that Firenze pass, because we didn't have to stand in this line. We just got to go in. They do not let you take pictures inside, so these are postcards that I took of the David, which is absolutely awe-inspiring, larger than life, absolutely incredible. And then a couple other statues that Michelangelo had started carving that were never finished. They call them now the 4 prisoners, because they look like their bodies trying to escape from the stone. Very cool. This kind of paisley metallic paper, I don't know if you can see that, it's shimmery metallic. I don't know where I got it. I only had a couple pieces of it, but I thought it was really nice for Florence. Gelato. Here we are again. Lindt is a company that we in America know very well. And got some gelato, sat outside the Duomo. We ate gelato pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day when we were in Italy. It was delightful. We burned it all off. It was great. And this is some chocolate paper that I've had forever. I don't know, years ago I bought a hot off the press book that had food in it, and I've used all the chocolate, go figure, and none of the others, I don't think. The Duomo, a cathedral again, that same kind of stripy black and white stone as the Duomo that we saw in Siena in the last book. Just beautiful. I mean, just the way that they layered the stone and used it as a decorative element is just beautiful. I have some kind of speckly paper. I think this is CM paper from a long time ago. That it just has kind of a little speckly background. You can't really see it in the video, but similar to like, almost like dollar bill paper, you know, it's just little flecks of paper. So it's not quite that same stark white. You can see a couple little specks up here on the camera, but other than that, that's all I did was the little speckled paper just for a hint of texture and the pictures of this place that are just so amazing. And here again, I've done my stacked pictures right along the center seam and kind of made hopefully a balanced layout that's kind of visually pleasing as you go through here. And of course, I like to put the things with sky at the top and the things without sky at the bottom, just for your, you know, your mind. You want the sky to be above the ground. And of course, you know, not always, but when you can. All right, so here's inside the Duomo. Once again, I've done a little pocket. This one is different than all the ones I've done before, a little harder to get stuff out. But still, if you want to, you know, pull out the little brochure and look at the things about the Duomo, and then you can just tuck it back in here. And I'm going to do a video at some point in the near future about how I do pockets, because I do put a little reinforcing to make space, so that's going to fit in there. Here's a little bit more of that paisley paper, and then just pictures inside. And you see this one is much simpler than the Duomo in Siena, which was just so incredible on the inside as well as the outside. This one is super beautiful on the outside and clean and kind of simple and restful. I really liked the inside of the Duomo in Florence. The famous Ghiberti Doors, something I learned about in my college humanities classes. They're not actually on the Duomo, and they're not actually the real doors. These are replicas, and they're on the baptistry. So a lot of the cathedrals in Italy have the Duomo or the cathedral, then they have the baptistry, which is a separate building, and then often they'll have a tower, and they're not necessarily all combined. And we'll see that when we get to Pisa that they have, you know, those three things are separate. But so this was fun to see the Ghiberti Doors, and then the inside of the baptistry had all this elegant mosaic work and frescoes and all the stuff that I kind of expected to see inside the cathedral, but it was in the baptistry. And I think this is kind of like the progression of the life of Christ that goes around the circle. But of course, I didn't take pictures of all those things. But if you look at some of these, you know, pictures, Last Supper, and just, you know, scenes from the life of Christ. So after we left there, we went to the Piazza della Signoria. Again, don't speak Italian. My apologies to anyone who does. I used this same diamond chain that I used on another kind of random plaza page. And this is where the David originally stood. It was just outside in the elements until they realized they wanted it to be inside, you know, protected. But there are lots of really beautiful statues kind of just gathered in this little covered area. There's a big plaque in the ground that shows that this is the site of the execution of the Italian friar Savonarola. And then the plaque just says that it memorializes his death in 1498. He was one of the early reformers of the Catholic Church, and his writings influenced Martin Luther. So I thought that was cool that there's just this little plaque in the pavement of this piazza that talks about this martyr. And here just then some of the statues in the piazza, and you know, the nudity, just, it's funny. We're Americans, we're little kids, I guess. So we have lots of pictures where we're trying to kind of, you know, cover up David and his bits. And we're from Hawaii, so like the shaka is a thing for us. And so my husband, you know, it's kind of like Roll Tide in Alabama. When you don't know what to say, you're like, well, Roll Tide. In Hawaii, you're like, all right, shaka, brah. So that's kind of where that came from. And then here's the replica of the David. And because it's outside, it feels a little smaller, I guess, even though it's an exact replica. And you can take pictures of it. Wasn't quite as impressive, maybe because we didn't have to like wait in line and see it in a marble hall. And then just some of these other statues, which I didn't really know who they were. My guidebook probably talked about who they were, but Nothing that was specific destination sculpture for us to come look at. You can see I just kept this little border thing going. It's a silver metallic paper, so it's kind of not showing up that great on the video. All right, and then the Ponte Vecchio, which is a famous little bridge in Florence. We saw some little people rowing, and it's just all these little buildings. It's like jewelry shops mostly, and very cool, that are lining the edges of the bridge, and they kind of poke out the side. But this is the only bridge in Florence along this river that was not blown up during World War II. And so this is like the one historic bridge that's left. And then we did walk along the bridge and look at some of the super, super expensive things. There's a little mouse playing a piano, lots and lots of jewelry, and, you know, Rolex watches, the kind that if you have to ask, you can't afford it. So just lots and lots of tourists here on the Ponte Vecchio. This is an old Creative Memories Border Maker cartridge. I don't remember the name of it, but it's from Old CM, and it's one I really like, but it's hard to come by. So if you're looking to pick one up for yourself, it's going to be a little trickier, but maybe you can find someone that has one that could punch you out some stuff. All right, and then just more different things in Florence. This church, Santa Croce, is where Galileo and Michelangelo are buried. And we had put that on our list of things we wanted to do that day, not realizing that the church closed at 5 p.m. Probably maybe for their own services or something. But anyway, we didn't get to go inside. So that was a little disappointing to not be able to go in there. Those ginormous jars of Nutella, that was fun. There's the moon behind a construction crane. Some more gelato, a tiny little car, some Italian graffiti, and some Pringles in the store that said goal, which is not, you know, American football, but it was fun. The Bargello, this was the next day, and the Bargello is a big museum. It used to be a city hall, and somehow it's turned into a museum. And I took a bunch of pictures outside, and I took one picture in here, and right here, this little teeny speck is Donatello's David, and I wrote a little note right here. I got in trouble. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to take any pictures inside, so that's the only picture I have inside of the Bargello. There's a Disney store in Florence, and of course we had to go. Didn't buy anything Disney, but it was fun to kind of see the decorations, kind of how they've Italianized the artwork that was in the Disney store. And so that was fun. Just fun to go visit our friends Minnie and Mickey in Italy. So this border is one that I copied from somebody. This is the Bubbles border punch. It might still be available if you purchase a new border maker system. There you get to choose a bonus cartridge. The Bubbles might be a choice, but it might be gone. But I kind of put like the next size smaller piece punch out in some of these holes. I really like the way that looks. And then I took some of I punched it out of some black and made some little, you know, him Mickey little icons, because I thought that was a fun Disney kind of border with the Bubble border maker cartridge. So one of the guidebooks highly recommended walking up to this Piazzele. I don't know what the difference is between a piazza, Piazzele, I don't know, but it's kind of up a hill overlooking the city. It says you got great views, but you got to climb up all these stairs. And they don't look like they're as bad as they are, but man, there was a lot of stairs. But you get up to the top and it just overlooks the whole city, and it was absolutely beautiful. Lots of Italian flags. Here's yet another replica of the David, and my husband yet again trying to, you know, cover up the naked parts. And then this famous view of the city, which lots of people who go to Florence hike up here and get this picture, you know, with the Duomo and stuff in the background, and just the countryside and the estates that are around there. So beautiful. Another panorama that my husband took. Just really nice views. Oh, and then we, I think I wrote this somewhere, but I don't remember. We rode the bus down afterwards, found out that we could just use our little Firenze pass and ride the bus down. So next time, I think I would have rather ride the bus up and walk down the steps. But it was definitely a beautiful view and very fun to go up there. All right, so Volterra is not necessarily one of the most highly visited towns, but this was probably one of my very favorite places we visited on our whole trip. It's not very touristy. Volterra is mostly known for their alabaster, but it's also the home of an Etruscan museum. And, you know, I've talked about how I love all things Roman ruin. I love the oldness of it, the antiquity, I guess. But the Etruscans predated the Romans. So it's even older than Roman ruins is this Etruscan stuff. But it was small, kind of remote, not very touristy. And just, I really liked that part of it, feeling like it was more of an Italian village than just a bunch of Americans walking around buying stuff. So here's just a little map that we got talking about the different things. We found a place to park outside the city for free, which was really nice. And we walked in through this kind of back entrance by this just beautiful old fountain, and like nobody, it's just there. You just kind of walk up and then all the stairs again. And you know, which one is going to be worse? And I think they were probably both really bad, and definitely plan to be in shape before you visit Italy. I had this paper that's kind of marbleized, not like marble, the stone, but like marble paint. You can see I have kind of a different pattern on one. I think I probably had 2 pages, one of each. And just because of the alabaster stony feeling that I got from Volterra, I decided to use that through all my Volterra pages. Here's that 4 layout again. Here's the wonderful, wonderful Etruscan Museum, the whole reason we came to Volterra. And so a lot of what we know about the Etruscans is what was found in tombs. And so that would have been like the wealthy people that would have carvings and stuff on their little tombstone. So we don't really know a whole lot about like the average people, just the Etruscans. But this particular little statue that they have is a couple feet tall. And what's interesting about this statue, if you look at this, it's like carvings of people that looks like people. And this, they said, is one of the very first representations in art of something like symbolic. So it's called Shadow Boy, and it's supposed to be a statue representing what a person's shadow would look like. Anyway, I just thought that was a really cool thing because, you know, all this other stuff, all the statues we've seen are representational of what humans look like. And this was somebody, an artist, kind of not replicating exactly what a person would look like, but replicating a shadow. And I thought that was a really neat, artsy tidbit, that this was one of the first of its kind that didn't attempt to just mimic what a person looks like in real life. So after we left the Etruscan Museum, we went down to this little section of the city wall that dates from the time of the Etruscans. So that's like 2,500 plus years ago. They've incorporated the rest of the city walls, so newer parts around it are, incorporated into this actual archway that you can come in and out of the city. And my daughter was jumping, and I used my power burst on my camera because she can sure get some air. And here I am touching these 2,500-year-old walls, because that is just awe-inspiring to me, to have those kind of old things that I can touch, that are still standing and doing the job that they were meant to do. So what's really cool about this Etruscan arch is that there are these 3 heads, like sculptures, carved in the stone outside of the archway. But if you look at them up close, they're just kind of blobs. And so basically, one of my guidebooks says this is a great way to learn what happens to a statue or a stone carving when you leave it outside for 2,500 years. The other really interesting thing about this Etruscan arch is that during World War II, this Volterra was occupied by the Nazis, and they were going to blow up the gate to keep the Allies from coming in. And so the residents of the town pulled up all the paving stones from the streets of the city and filled this up so that they could convince the Nazi commander that he didn't need to destroy this 2,500-year-old landmark. And, what a treasure that they saved this from being a casualty of war. Just it's just horrifying to think what we humans do to things without really paying attention to their heritage. So here I just wrote, it was nice to feel like we were the only tourists in town. And you just see, it really felt like it was us by ourselves. Even in Siena, we didn't feel like there were a lot of tourists, but there were a lot of people, because a lot of the people who live in Siena. But here it was like almost deserted, except for like restaurants and stuff where we wanted to eat. So here's some of that black and white stripe stone on the church. This was a little post office or something. Then they just have these carved stone things built into the wall to tell you what, what the buildings are. Here's a person. We saw a person looking out his window at us. He's wearing clothes. It looks like he's not, but I can see his little pants on here. You just can only see shirt. Oh, and then we saw a Ford F-150 in Volterra, Italy. It was kind of cool. So here again, we went up to the city walls to get a view of the countryside. These two pictures, one we took of my daughter, one she took of us, are some of my very favorite from this trip. Just with the countryside behind us, it was just so beautiful and so peaceful, and just great, just lovely to be kind of catch our breath and have such a peaceful day. We found a little Roman ruin theater, not as old as the Etruscans, but the Romans. And so we kind of looked at some of that stuff. I wrote here that now that we know about the Etruscans, the Romans feel a lot less ancient. So maybe I'm a little bit less impressed with Roman ruins now. I wish I could see some more Etruscan stuff. My husband did this thing where he bounced on this wall overlooking this, we were looking down onto this Roman ruin excavation, and it pretty much terrified me. I'm scared of heights, and he does stuff like that just to torment me. And then as we were walking back to the car, we happened upon this little shop where the owner is named Bruno, an old Italian man. He told us he hates his name because it's boring, which I thought was really funny, because I guess in Italy, Bruno is a, John or Mike or whatever, a real basic name. But to us, Bruno was a very Italian name. And he hand carves everything in his shop out of alabaster. So everything's kind of covered in dust. He had beautiful, beautiful things. It's like a horse head that he was carving. Sadly, most of them were out of our budget and we didn't have room in our suitcase, but I did buy a few small things, some little carved pots and a little alabaster nativity, which I love and is one of my favorite things from our trip. All right, after we left Volterra, we went to San Gimignano, not for very long. It was kind of getting late in the day, but we wanted to, check that off our list. My daughter had a drawing, an Italy drawing that she had seen when she'd been here years earlier, and she really had regretted not buying it. So we thought, well, we'll go see if we can find that shop and buy the piece of art. So we parked outside in a little parking area and walked around the streets of the city. And this is where we found a restaurant, actually. It was hard for us because A, we were still kind of jet laggy, and B, the Europeans just eat differently than Americans do. And we wanted to eat about, dinner time, like 5:30. We'd often skipped lunch. We'd have a kind of a late breakfast, and then we'd be starving. And so we end up in this little restaurant that overlooked the countryside. We were the only people there in the restaurant yet again, but thankfully they were willing to feed us. And you can see with, San Gimignano, after we leave Volterra, where I've been using this marbly paper, then when I come to San Gimignano, I chose to do a background with another one of those papers, probably from that paper pad that I had, and just some little texture, so that, okay, we're not in Volterra anymore. And just pictures of the views, pictures in the town. There's my little squares. Here's a picture. I said, hooray, we found the Italy print Katie was looking for. So that I don't actually have a picture of that print, but she has it hanging in her house now. So we're happy that we found that for her. And then just more things. Here's my husband chasing pigeons. That was one of his little things that he liked to do. And here I wrote, San Gimignano had a few more tourists than Volterra, but it was still relatively empty when we were there. So then we went back to Siena to visit a family that Katie had known when she was on her mission. So I just wrote about this. And then the next day, Friday, we got to sleep in from our hotel in Florence. We hadn't gone back to our hotel till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And so it was really nice to sleep in. And then we went and visited one of Katie's friends, Flavia. And we went to Pisa. She, I can't remember, she's from there, her boyfriend's from there, something like that. But she suggested we visit her in Pisa. And so that, we knew that was on our list. So we went to Pisa and met up with Flavia. And it was really nice because I love Italian food. I love me some pasta. But we've been eating pasta now for like 8 solid days. Hardly any vegetables. And Flavia's a vegetarian. And so she said, oh, how do you guys feel about Japanese food? We felt great about Japanese food. I've never been so happy to see rice or steamed broccoli in my life. But I only took 2 pictures in this restaurant. I would never do a double page layout for 2 pictures. And yet I had 2 pictures that needed to go here. I couldn't consolidate any of these a different way. I mean, I guess I could have put all of these together onto, okay, we won't think too hard about this. But I love this sushi page. I struggled with how do I make something that looks like sushi. And so I just took a round circle punch and then this scallop circle and some little flowers and some little black dots. I think it's just super fun. And I wouldn't do this a lot. I don't, that I don't often do just 2 pictures on a double page layout. But for this one I did, and I wrote about this fun little sushi restaurant where you sit at your table and there's a little conveyor belt that brings the food to you. It's like an all-you-can-eat restaurant, but instead of going up to the buffet comes to you. And it was just really fun. And so nice to have something a little different than the pasta that we've been having every single day for the last week and a half. And after lunch here, we had to go to the famous Leaning Tower of Pisa. I said everybody knows about the famous Leaning Tower, but there are several structures there that are worth seeing. Here's another panorama right here. Here's the tickets we bought to go in, and I took a picture of the little sign that shows you the baptistry and the cathedral and the tower. And then there's something back here like I don't even know what it is. We didn't go in there. Camposanto, I don't know what that is. We didn't go in it, but we did go in the baptistry and of course, the Duomo. So here I'm just again using plain white page and this little strip of green across just to tie it all together. So you see all my Pisa pages are just going to have this little strip of green, have the famous, hey, I'm holding up the tower, Katie and Flavia holding it up against each other, one of our selfies that we took. My daughter took a picture of me, taking a picture of my husband, us leaning. She's leaning the wrong way. My husband didn't want to do the thing where you hold up the tower, so he wanted to push the tower, so he's pushing the tower down. And then we went in the baptistry, which was awesome. If you go to Pisa and you have a chance, go in the baptistry. It was lovely. And one of the really cool things about it is that it has really amazing acoustics, and it is possible for one person to sing a chord. And so I actually have a video of that that's still on my phone. I've never deleted it from my phone because every now and again I think, oh, I should listen to that, because it's just really cool with the acoustics, that a worker goes up like to the middle of under the dome and sings 3 notes like a second apart, and they blend together. It's just awesome. So I don't know why I took this. Here's what my journaling says. There's no real reason for this series of photos except that Katie can jump incredibly high, and it's fun to use the power burst setting on the camera to get photos of her. So there you go. No reason for this, but these 2 pictures, this one and this one of my husband and my daughter jumping, are just my favorites. They're just a lot of fun, and we had fun on our trip to Italy. So this Campo di Marchioli, so sorry any Italian speakers out there, that has, it's like a piazza almost, but it's grass. So I don't know what these words mean. I don't know. But this huge grassy area surrounded by these buildings. That's that one building I said I didn't know what it was, that surrounds the whole cathedral and the baptistry and stuff. And so the cathedral is absolutely beautiful, and probably the builders expected that that was going to be the main attraction. That was going to be, you know, what would be the centerpiece of their work. Has these beautiful carved doors. I mean, all the things. And yet turns out that what has made Pisa such a highly visited tourist attraction is the tower that, you know, kind of they messed up on. But here inside the cathedral, beautiful stuff. Some more of those stripes. Just stunningly gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous paintings, frescoes, mosaics. There was a man playing the organ. It was lovely. It was lovely just to be able to listen to that. And so here I've come inside. You know, I did the green stripe back here till I got to the baptistry. And then I put kind of the red stripe. And now in here, I have kind of this sandy stone stripe. So I've stayed with this paper stripe all the way through. And you see, here's just my standard layout. I didn't really journal anything about this. This is just inside of the Duomo. Some of the mosaic floors, some of the statues, just, you know, the pictures are of just the beauty of the interior of the cathedral. I did say they also have the body of a dead saint in a glass coffin, which was kind of a creepy thing to see, which, you know, for me, that was kind of creepy. And then there was kind of this one sculpture that was super modern. It was very interesting. I don't know when it was built. Maybe it isn't modern, but it felt very modern, different than a lot of the other sculptures that we'd seen. That we were with my daughter's friend and her boyfriend, and he told us a joke about cathedrals, and he admitted that Italians aren't really known for their sense of humor, but the joke is a joke about the layout of church squares. First you're baptized, then you're married, and then you throw your wife off the tower, which we thought was a pretty funny joke. And thankfully we saw no one getting thrown off the tower while we were there. Here's that glass coffin with somebody's body in it. San Ranieri. So, and then we went around the back, and there's just this random giant sculpture in there, and kind of nobody in the back behind the cathedral. We had this perfect view of the tower. Now, you don't see it leaning very much from this angle, but it was really cool to be kind of back there and feel like, again, we were there by ourselves. So I guess we changed our angle a little bit. It's still leaning. We got to have some, you know, privately posed pictures, which was really fun. I said, I'm sure Katie was embarrassed by her crazy parents many times during this trip. And luckily, we were mostly all alone for these photos. And then here on the back of the Duomo are these gorgeous doors and that nobody even was by. So many, many beautiful things to see. But a lot of people come, get their picture with the tower, and then they're done. And my husband actually used his the Level app he has on his phone. I think I mentioned that in an earlier video, to measure the exact angle of the tilt. But silly me, I didn't write it down. So, and then just our last page in Pisa. I said we only had a few hours in Pisa, but we enjoyed all of them very much. All right, and you see I've come to the back. Oh, look, my cover did pop out a little bit still, even with the cardstock on there. So I'll have to see if I can make it work better. But there's the end, volume 3, Florence Volterra, Pisa. And we got one more left. I'll have that for you in a couple of days. And then you will have seen everything that I felt like was important enough to take photos of for my trip to Italy. Thank you so much for following along with my album flip through, and happy scrapbooking.